Hi, good morning. I'm Corey Rennie, the unemployable counselor, and I'm here on a very foggy morning this morning. Because I've been doing a little stuff where I talk about workplace, little tips for the workplace, and this is one that's I don't know. I don't know if it's a tip or if it's more of a philosophy. I don't know, but I'm going to keep it short, and we'll figure that out together. So I want to talk about trust in the workplace. When we go to work, we all gravitate towards certain people, right? We make connections. We might not like others, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, right? So the trust you have, and I'm not talking about trust with staff and management. I'm talking about trust between each other, trust between your coworkers, right? Whether you work for, whether you're making hamburgers or you're housing criminals or you're looking after kids or you're building trees, there has to be a certain level of trust there. Cutting down trees, not building trees. There has to be a certain amount of trust there to do your job safely and I think accurately. But there's also a fine line that you walk up to, because how far does that trust go? I'm going to give an example. So you're working in an environment, you have a team, or you're working with a person, you're working with a couple people, right? Even you look on the schedule to see when they work next, you're excited to work with them, right? There's a bit of a bond, a bit of a trust there. Something happens in the workplace, okay? It's big enough that maybe management has to get involved, or people are being spoken to, or whatever the case may be, right? How far does that trust go? When does you trusting someone else overseed the need for you to keep that job, or to avoid discipline, or just out of plain fear? How does that operate? What would you do in that situation, right? Something happens on, let's say you're pumping gas or something, or you're making burgers, or whatever the case may be, right? My point is, it doesn't matter where you work, these type of things can happen. So I think when that does occur, how do you respond? Okay. You hear lots of words like rat and stuff like that. If it's for the workplace, and if you're working with even a vulnerable population, or you're working with, delicate equipment, or stuff that actually has, a human element involved, or a financial element, or even just operational concerns, you have to act with some honesty, right? Like, you have to, who do you trust in those situations, right? Is it a matter where, oh my goodness, no one knows anything, even though something big happened here? Nobody wants to say anything because nobody wants to rat out their employees or their people they work with or their friends, whatever the case may be. And it's not that. That's a weird mob-esque mentality, because ultimately someone is going to say something, whether it's true or not. You're going to have to respond to it, whether, what you're responding to is true or not. So all you have is your own integrity and your own honesty, and who do you trust? If it's you and someone else, or it's more than one person all being on the same thing, is everyone going to know, we have a blood oath, we're going to stick together and get through this? Or is someone usually, hey man, I don't know what happened here, this is what I know? And what's the right course of action to take in a situation like that, right? Are we talking about loyalty to a paycheck? I don't know, maybe. Are we talking about loyalty to your friends? Maybe. But it's bad enough that people lose their jobs, or it's bad enough that there's people disciplined. When does that become, when does the lack of trust then for like you with the organization, what happens then, right? The stuff you're doing with your individuals here, will that stay the same then? No, we're all going to, no, that group's going to probably get broken up. And eventually the truth will come out, because regardless of your workplace, that stuff happens, right? If you have a union can get involved and they'll fight on your side. And if you're unlucky enough to not have someone in your corner like that, then it can always go much worse, right? But if you're not honest, and if you don't conduct yourself in that manner, then trust with anybody is going to be difficult, because they're always going to have in the back of their mind, this guy's going to screw me over the first chance he gets, even if I'm not doing anything. right? Again, it goes back to things like, ally building, right? So if you're talking to people, telling them a narrative that's not necessarily true, or might have some truth in it, or maybe it is true, but you don't know for sure. You're just precipitating that rumor. You're precipitating that that dishonest narrative. And then you got to look at your own motivations. Most of the time it's for people to save their own ass, I've noticed, right? That in the workplace, that's really when you really get to find out the integrity and who you can trust in a situation like that. But if you're working in an environment, the only person you should be trusting is yourself, because you're not responsible for what anyone else does. You're not responsible for what they say. But unfortunately, if they're saying stuff about you, you're in the unenviable position to have to defend that and to have to fight a fight that you don't even need to be a part of. But you're put in there as either a smokescreen, a deflection, right? Or it's just, I don't like this guy, we're gonna get him the hell out of here, right? Those things do happen in the workplace. And I'm sure no matter where you've worked, everyone has experienced something to that effect, right? Whether it ends up being a discipline, suspension, people get terminated, or people are doing their own unethical acts, and then when things are getting found out, they suddenly quit, right? Or no one sees them again. They just kind of vanish into the ether, or they keep a low profile. If they're being so vocal about this, but then when something comes up and they run and they hide and all of a sudden you can't see anybody, there is a red flag for you. You might as well have a sign on your shirt that says, yeah, it might probably be me, okay? Because that's what happens. Now, I don't want to keep this going too long this morning, but it's some food for thought, because if you're in a work environment where you think there's people you can just, they got my back. Nobody has your back except you. And you need to realize that. And other people want to say, this guy's a jerk, or what a dick, right? That kind of stuff. But no. Because whose house do you go home to when you're done work? Is it theirs? No. It's yours. That's your responsibility. Okay? So people can get mad and upset and be like, they shouldn't have said this. No, they're doing what they can to protect themselves. And while I can understand that, it also leads to a lack of integrity that someone is willing to say one thing and do another. So that is why the best defense is to be open, be honest, and as I said in a previous video, be yourself. Be true to yourself. Okay? Because if that's not going to happen, then you're going to fall in a hole every time. And there are people who you thought were your friends and who you trusted in the workplace, or maybe there were shovels to fill that hole in on top of you. Okay? Corey Rennie, unemployable counselor. Another work tip. Like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for hanging out this morning for 8.5 minutes. And hope you have a really good weekend. And like I said, let's just be nice to each other, take care of each other. And more importantly, let's just be honest. Okay? Nothing bad comes from... Nothing as bad as telling a dishonest thing will happen if you just tell the truth. You know what I mean? Just be honest. And regardless what happens, it's not going to be nearly as bad as when you're not. What's even worse is when you... Yeah. All right. Corey Rennie, unemployable counselor, on this foggy Saturday. 9 minutes. Take care, and we'll talk soon.